Amen. Praise the Lord. Saints, how y'all doing today? I love y'all. Um, Not necessarily about to get into some word, but my conversation will definitely be word based. Just got off the phone with somebody, and this is one of our beloved brethren. Going through some things, and coming out of the conversation, I had the thought, or a thought, and it's one of the reasons why I personally hate religion. And one of the reasons I personally hate religion is that it puts or seeks to put God within a box. And whereby thus we or it or they seek to put the people of God in a box. You can't control things that are outside of a box. But if you can put things within a box, you can control it. You can control the narrative of it. You can control the perception of it. You can say what it is and what it isn't. And so that's one of the things that I dislike, because it removes the liberty that we have in God to follow God. And we need that liberty because God has us do different things. And some of the things that God has us do are abstract or inconceivable, if I can use that word. If we look at the book of Genesis and start with Noah, God asked Noah to build a boat because it was going to rain and create a great flood, and the flood was going to destroy the world. And Noah talked about it. Nobody believed him, but he preached it for all those years, according to the book of Joshua, and nobody believed him. And of course, this thing happened. And from what I read, apparently it had never rained before. Uh, the trees and the grass and everything was watered by the dew, the morning dew that would rise. But it had never rained before, so this sounded like something crazy. But Moses did it, and everybody understood afterwards, that was birthed from Moses and his sons, that this thing had happened. And later on, Abraham came. And Abraham was asked by God to do something different than what Noah was asked to do. He was asked to leave his mother and father's house, and he would become the father of many nations, right? But what he was asked to do was not what Noah was asked to do. So if religion had come through and put God in a box, and put the people of God in a box based on what Noah was asked to do, then what Abraham was asked to do would have been rejected or questioned or looked negatively upon because it did not fit within the box. But yet it was still God that asked him to do it. And he did it. And he ended up having a son, according to the flesh, with Hagar. And then he ended up having the son, according to the spirit, with Sarah. And God told him to get rid of the bondwoman and the child. Imagine that today, if someone was to say that God told them to get rid of their child and the woman that they had that child with, and to move forward with what God was telling them to do. They would be called a deadbeat dad. They would be looked at horribly. It's no way that God told them to do this, but we see in the scriptures that God did tell someone to do this, and God has not changed. He's the same. So there goes that unorthodoxness, the unorthodoxness, however you would say that word, if it's even a word, that God operates in. And then he told Abraham, the same Abraham, to take his spiritual son and go and sacrifice him. Imagine if somebody were to say that. God told me to take my son up on a mountain to sacrifice him. They would be labeled as crazy. That does not fit inside the box. That's not what God asked Noah to do. That is not within the confines of the religion that we created, but yet it is still what God asked Abraham to do. Abraham would have been the first deadbeat dad and crazy man if we were to judge him the way that we judge things today. But yet and still, this is what God asked him to do, and he had to do it. And then later on down the line, you have your Josephs who were thrown into a pit because God gave him a vision of what would take place. But that did not fit into the customs. Him being the youngest or one of the youngest was not supposed to rule over not only his brothers, his older brothers, but his mother and father as well. Well, his mother died, but his father as well. So the father was confused by it and rejected it, and the brothers hated him for it and threw him in a pit and sold him into slavery. Some of them wanted to kill him because the thing that God had showed him did not fit into the box of their customs, their traditions, their understandings. God was doing something outside of the box. And so it was rejected, and he was rejected. But it was still God, nonetheless. And moving forward past that, the children of Israel get enslaved later on down the line. And then God asks Moses to go back into Egypt and tell the Pharaoh to let the people go. Another crazy thing. God didn't tell anybody else to do that. He told Moses to do that. And we have Hosea, who God tells to marry a prostitute. And you have your Sauls and your Davids, and so on and so forth, example after example of God doing things that are unorthodox. What if your pastor went and married a prostitute off the street? How would you view that? Would you condemn him? Would you think he was being foolish? God divorces the northern tribe of Israel. Divorce was a part of the law, which was righteous. What if your pastor got divorced and stated that it was something that God told him to do? Would you think he was evil? I'm running out of time here, so I got to close this out. But don't allow yourself to be put in a box. Don't allow religion to put you in a box. God is not in a box. His thoughts are not our thoughts. His ways are not our ways. He is bigger, better, and above. You do what God has called you to do. If man does not understand it, if man does not believe it, that's not your concern. You do what God has told you to do. That's it. End of discussion. This was a bit of a random discussion, but I hope it helps somebody. As always, I love you. Love God. Love your neighbor. And just keep pressing. Continue to press toward the mark and reach for the high calling. Y'all have a blessed day. Amen.